Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. It's me. It's True Crime Tuesday. We haven't been here in a while. True Crime Tuesday. It's a thing. We haven't done it in I don't know how long. It's been a long time, hasn't it? All right. What do we want to do here? I have a story for you. Hang on a second here. All right. Check it out, folks. This is crazy. Somebody told me I needed to look into baby Cyrus. And then somebody else told me, no, you don't want to do that. It will ruin your reputation to listen to anything these people have to say. And then when I hear that, I go, someone doesn't want anyone talking about this story, which is weird to me, very weird. And I got like trolls on Twitter, all upset because Ammon Bundy is involved in this story. If you don't know who Ammon Bundy is, we need to start with the Bundy family in order to understand the alleged medical kidnapping of baby Cyrus. Now, I covered the Bundy standoff years ago. Let's start there. All right, let's see. So I'm trying to figure out what year this was. Let's look at Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia is somewhat questionable, but I'm going to look there anyway for the basic dates of this stuff. All right, 2014. This is what Wikipedia has to say about the Bundy standoff. In 2014, the Bundy standoff was an armed confrontation between supporters of cattle rancher Cliven Bundy and law enforcement following a 21-year legal dispute in which the United States Bureau of Land Management, or BLM, obtained court orders directing Bundy to pay over $1 million in withheld grazing fees for Bundy's use of federally owned land adjacent to Bundy's ranch in southeastern Nevada. Now, they came to his, Vice's raid. Perfect. Hey, guys, welcome. What great timing. They came to Bundy's ranch and started rounding up his cattle to kill them. Like they weren't even going to sell them. It was really terrible what the feds did on the Bundy ranch. And their argument, the Bundy's argument, was that they had grazing rights that went back 100 years. Their family has had this land. So they were grandfathered in. And then the federal government said, no, you have to pay us millions of dollars. And of course, if you know anything about American ranchers, they're not raking it in. Okay. They're barely surviving. And so that would have shut down their ranch. So when the feds came onto their land and started rounding up the cattle, a whole bunch of people showed up on horseback. It was like something you see in the movies. Showed up with guns on horseback and confronted the feds and said, nope, You're not taking these cattle. And it was something. It was scary. I was worried we were watching another Ruby Ridge or David Koresh situation. And it absolutely could have gone that direction. But what ended up happening is that the feds backed down and they released the cattle. And I think one death was reported. I think the feds shot somebody. Hold on, let's read through this and see, because I think somebody died. Sorry, I didn't review this story last night. I was reviewing the stuff about baby Cyrus. So my memory's a little foggy on what actually happened at the standoff. But on March 27th of 2014, for 145,000 acres of federal land in Clark County were temporarily closed for the capture, impound, and removal of trespass cattle. BLM officials and law enforcement rangers began rounding up such livestock on April 5th, and Cliven Bundy's son Dave was arrested. On April 12th, 2014, a group of protesters, some of them armed, approached the BLM cattle gatherer, Sheriff Doug Gillespie, negotiated with Bundy, and newly confirmed BLM Director Neil Corns, who elected to release the cattle and de-escalate the situation. As of the end of 2015, Cliven Bundy continued to graze his cattle on federal land and still had not paid the grazing fees. The ongoing dispute started in 1993 when, in protest against changes in grazing rules, Bundy declined to renew his permit for cattle grazing on BLM-administered public lands. That just reminds me of of The Office, and not The Office, the other one, Parks and Rec. Of Ron. Oh, you want my permit? Here's my permit. It says I can do whatever I want. There's my permit, feds. You gotta love the Bundys, you know? They stand up for things and they say no to the federal government. And it's real dangerous to do that. His whole family could have been shot dead that day, and the feds probably would have got away with it, like they got away with Ruby Ridge and Waco. According to Bundy, the federal government lacks the constitutional authority to own vast tracts of lands, an argument repeatedly rejected by the federal courts. According to the BLM, Bundy continued to graze his cattle on public lands without a permit. In 1998, Bundy was prohibited by the United States District Court for the District of Nevada from grazing his cattle on an area of land later called the Bunkerville Allotment. In July 2013, federal judge Lloyd George ordered Bundy to refrain from trespassing on federally administered land in the Gold Butte area of Clark County. Cliven and his son, Ammon Bundy, and their supporters have claimed that the federal government lacks the authority to manage public lands. These arguments have been repeatedly rejected by legal scholars in federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court. The Property Clause of the United States Constitution grants plenary authority to Congress to manage federal property, including land. Well, perhaps they're making the wrong argument. Perhaps the argument should be that the federal government has no right to manage ranchers who need the land to make a living. You know, I mean, I don't know if the Bundys are sov-cits. It's possible they're sovereign citizens. I don't know. They are interesting, to say the least. The family is interesting. And the land to which Cliven Bundy claims ancestral rights was originally inhabited by the Moapa Paiute people. In 1848, as part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the United States purchased from Mexico land that is now the southwestern region of the United States. Since then, the government has continuously owned land in what is now Nevada, including the Bunkerville Allotment. The Nevada Territory was partitioned in 1861 from the Utah Territory and became a state in 1864. The original settlers in the 1840s and 1850s were Mormons from Utah and southern small-time farmers and ranchers from Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi. After the end of the American Civil War, Much of the land was settled by rural farmers, squatters, and small-time cattle ranchers from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, and Kansas, escaping from the post-Civil War Reconstruction and the associated violence and displacement. Since 1934, federal rangelands in Nevada have been managed principally by either the BLM or its predecessor, the United States Grazing Service or the United States Forest Service. As of 2010, 47.8 million acres. Legal Vices says the Bundys are hardcore fundamentalist Mormons. Yeah, they're very interesting. Okay, they're uber religious. They may be sovereign citizens. They may be claiming legal arguments that don't exist. They clearly do not believe in the way our government system works. But they have a right to do that. Yes, he did run for governor. Ammon Bundy ran for governor, I believe. He was a gubernatorial candidate in Idaho, and of course lost. And the powers that be hate the Bundy family. They hate them. I'm still not sure if there's good reason to hate them or not. All right, let's continue reading about the history of this land and this land argument. Since 1934, federal rangelands have been managed principally by either BLM or the United States Grazing Service or the United States Forest Service. As of 2010, 47.8 million acres, more than two-thirds of Nevada's 70.3 million acres, was managed by the BLM. Throughout the nation, the BLM manages nearly 18,000 grazing permits and leases, of which about 700 are in Nevada. The season of use and the details of forage are stipulated in permits and leases. Thus, federal control can be exerted on the land used for grazing. Permits, man. The permitting, this is where I go full libertarian and I say permits are ridiculous in many cases. Like, why should a barber need a permit to cut hair? And we learned during COVID that permits are used to oppress people and shut down their businesses. So those people who chose to stay open during the illegal shutdowns of businesses were then fined and had their permits revoked and fined every day. I remember there was one barber in, I think, Michigan that governor was after. And so she revoked his permit so he couldn't cut hair anymore because he refused to stop cutting people's hair during the pandemic. And I mean, it's just Flux says politicians don't need permits. Maybe they should. Yeah, what happened to the song? The song. Hold on. There's a song. No, not that one. We don't want that one. No, stop. This land is my land. This land is your land. From California to New York Island. It's not though. It's not. It's the federal government's land. And you best believe it, or they'll come with guns and shoot your family and take it. All right. I don't know. I probably had the words wrong. All right, let's see. Where were we at? Under BLM permits, first issued in 1954, Bundy grazed his cattle legally and paid his grazing fees on the Bunkerville allotment until 1993. In 1989, the federal government declared the desert tortoise an endangered species and began negotiating a habitat conservation plan in Clark County, Nevada, to meet the needs of both the tortoise and the people, such as Bundy, who were using the land. It always starts like this. It's always some fish or some owl, some nesting bird, and then they starve the farmers and the ranchers because of it. There's a whole thing about the farmers in California that got their water cut off because of some fish. I mean, it's outrageous what the federal government can do. This was about a tortoise. All right, hold on. Valhalla says tortoise lives matter. Oh God. All right. Yeah, the Delta smelt, the smelt fish. Remember that? I think that's still going on. So they cut off all the water supply because of some smelt fish. I mean, just so all those farmers couldn't irrigate anymore. And you wonder why we have to get produce and stuff from South America. It's because our federal government is literally killing our farmers, their crops and stuff. Porcelain thunder. Licenses for things like hairdressing are to protect the public. Yeah, because we really need the feds to protect, and the state government to be our protectors from a bad haircut. Please stop. No. Here's how you settle a bad haircut. You don't go anymore and you post on Yelp about how bad they were. You know, that's the public can take care of itself when it comes to something as silly as a haircut. Nobody's cutting open anything in your skin. What about the gay frogs, man? You got to protect those gay frogs at every turn. Protect the gay frogs. All right. Okay, so now we have a situation developing with the tortoise. The tortoise is endangered. People such as Bundy, who are using the land, were now forced to do these new rules or whatever. In mid-1991, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service approved a short-term conservation plan that allowed for development of about 22,000 acres of tortoise habitat in and around Las Vegas in exchange for strict conservation measures on 400,000 acres of federal BLM land south of the city. This included the elimination of livestock grazing and strict limits on off-road vehicle use in the protected tortoise habitat. In 1993, a permanent conservation plan was put into place that more than doubled the conservation area and included the Bunkerville allotment. Oh, so they took away his grazing area for his cattle. So basically they're saying, you know, go fuck yourself, Bundy. Your life is now over. Your livelihood is now over because of a tortoise.
Go fuck yourself. But go fuck yourself.
That's basically the message that the federal government gave to Cliven Bundy. Unlike many ranchers, Bundy refused to sell his grazing privileges back to the federal government. Instead, as a protest, Bundy did not pay his renewal fees in 1993. His permit was canceled in 94. Although the agency made several attempts to have Bundy renew the permit, he declared that he no longer recognized the BLM's authority to regulate grazing and asserted that he had vested rights to graze cattle on the land. Well, when an authority does something so bad, like, declare that you are no longer allowed to make a living the way you've done so your entire life, perhaps they do lack the authority. I mean, it's hard to say that the BLM is right here. You cannot put lives of tortoises above the lives of human beings. This is a stupid, stupid thing that the government does. If they're so worried about, why didn't they just relocate some breeding tortoises somewhere and breed them in captivity and let them go? Like, do a breeding program then and increase the population. Yeah, okay, a few of them are going to get hit by trucks, but you can just have a breeding program somewhere. Why do you have to shut down the rights of ranchers who've had these rights for hundreds of years? To feed people. They're feeding America. But we have to worry more about the tortoise? They do lack authority because they're idiots. Sorry, but I'm with the Bundys so far on this one. I am. Federal courts have consistently ruled against Bundy on grazing rights, ruling him a trespasser with no right to graze on federal land. So, the feds can just take your living away whenever they want to. That's what this means. The courts authorized the BLM to remove Bundy's cattle and to levy damages for his unauthorized use. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Bundy accumulated more than $1 million in unpaid grazing fees and court-ordered fines. The Portland Oregonian newspaper reported in May of 2014 that the amount that Bundy owed stood in stark contrast to the situation in Oregon, where just 45 of the state's roughly 1,100 grazing permit holders collectively owed $18,759 in past due payments to the BLM, and only 2 ranchers had unpaid fees more than 60 days past due. I mean, what does the BLM do that they deserve all this money for permits? What is it that they're doing when the ranchers appear to be the ones using the land? What does the BLM do? Protect tortoises? Like, what do they do? What would you say you do here? All these federal organizations. Oh, Legal Vices says allegedly conservation work. Well, you know who really is good at conservation work? Ranchers, who need the land to be healthy in order for the cows to be able to graze on it. Farmers are good at conservation because they need that. They need everything to be healthy to grow stuff. They're hurting turtles? I don't know. Apparently, I don't know. Nothing. AP, just like the other BLM, they do nothing. I don't know. I mean, all this money they're getting.
Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions.
The feds get enough money. They don't need any more of our money. It's just a money grab. Pay us a permit to do the thing you've been doing for hundreds of years without permits. Now you have to pay us a permit, to pay us a fee. Chat is killing me. Don't forget to hit that like button, by the way, and subscribe. I hear we hit 24,000 subscribers. We're almost at 25. This seems to be going much faster than I expected, which is really cool. And I'm excited about that. So that's fun. All right. Where was I? And only 2 ranchers had unpaid fees more than 60 days past due. Well, so what? Bundy was doing it as a protest. So obviously his fees were going to be a lot higher that were unpaid because he refused to pay them. Excluding Bundy's unpaid fees, the total of all late grazing fees owed nationwide to the BLM was only $237,000. Well, that's because everyone's terrified of the BLM because they carry guns. Jeff, can you explain to me why a conservation unit needs to have weapons of war? Why do they have weapons of war? Because they do. They have armored cars and huge big guns. Some might call them assault rifles. And then they show up on your land and they point the guns at you and your family. Bears, mountain lions, and tortoises? Yeah, I don't know. Turtle lives matter. Yeah. LC Merritt, welcome to the Fox Den, where the vixen to Todd ratio is 80-20, but there are plenty of chickens for everyone. It's true. Here's to the 20%. We love you, 20%. All right, let's see. Excluding... All right, we got that one. All right, Bundy's worldview, according to Wikipedia. Bundy has said that he does not recognize federal police power over land that he believes belongs to the sovereign state of Nevada. I mean, it's not a bad argument. I know that the courts have said, sorry, we like the federal government owning land in certain states, which, okay, I guess. He also denies the jurisdiction of the federal court system over Nevada land, and he filed an unsuccessful motion to dismiss the BLM case against him, saying that the federal courts have no jurisdiction because he's a citizen of Nevada and not the territory of Nevada. That sounds like sovereign citizen arguments there, which never work in court, and that federally owned land in Nevada actually belongs to the state. According to The Guardian, Bundy told his supporters that we definitely don't recognize the BLM director's jurisdiction or authority, his arresting power or policing power in any way. And I kind of have to agree with that. Why does this federal police force that is supposed to be about conservation have arrest powers? Yeah, it's weird. I don't like federal police. Federal police are strange. Grounds, Kinver grounds. I think federal police forces are dangerous. I don't think we should have that. I don't think any federal force should be able to come on your land like they did in the ATF killed Randy Weaver's wife while she was holding their 10-month-old baby. All over an illegal sawed-off shotgun. That's it. And they were wrong. And there were lots of congressional hearings, and it was a tragedy. They also shot his son in the back. I think he was 12 years old. Federal police are scary. Okay. And Waco, who could forget that? Using tanks against women and children. All right. Where am I at here? We don't recognize the BLM director's jurisdiction or authority, his arresting power or police power in any way. And in interviews, he used the language of the sovereign citizen movement, thereby gaining the support of members of the Oath Keepers, the White Mountain Militia, and the Praetorian Guard militias. I love how they try to make these things sound, the militias, like they're these scary organizations. And really, it's in the Constitution that we should have a well-regulated militia. That is not the army. That's not what that means. It means citizen militias. It means we have the right to have these things. And so what? He gained their support. The FBI considers sovereign citizen extremism a domestic terrorism threat. Okay, well, there's some argument to be made that might be true in some situations. I have seen sovereign citizens create all kinds of problems, including in the Cynthia Absug case. Those sovereign citizens, bad news. And I would definitely put them on that list. But I think there are others who they're just wrong legally. Yeah, and Oath Keepers, I didn't think Oath Keepers were sovereign cits, were they? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. And look at the way this is written too. He used sovereign language of the sovereign citizen movement. So what language? I mean, there's no quote or anything. I don't know. Probably because he said he doesn't recognize their policing power. But I mean, the Constitution gives us the authority to say that any law that violates the Constitution is an illegal law. So we shouldn't recognize any law that violates a constitutional right because the Constitution supersedes all laws. And if you find some law that violates your constitutional rights of due process or anything else, then it's not a good law and it should be ignored. Now that will get you into trouble if the law is not overturned in some way. All right. I'm looking for my place. Hold on. J.J. McNabb, who writes for Forbes about anti-government extremism, described Bundy's views as inspired by the sovereign citizen movement, whose adherents believe that the county sheriff is the most powerful law enforcement officer in the country, with authority superior to that of any federal agent, local law enforcement agency, or any other elected official. Well, I mean, the sheriff does have a lot of power. That's true. They do. but I don't know if they have more power than, well, I don't know. But the sheriff, it does have a lot of power because he's an elected official, and he answers directly to the people, and he has arrest powers. Like, technically, the sheriff could arrest any politician in the state, like, and he has that authority, I do believe, if if he needed to, with authority superior to that of any federal agent. Yeah, okay. On April 12th, 2014, Bundy ordered Clark County Sheriff Doug Gillespie to confront the federal agents, disarm them, and deliver their arms to Bundy within an hour of his demand. Well, I don't think they would take the feds' guns and give them to the Bundys. But I do think that the sheriff could speak to the feds and ask them to leave to leave. He could do that. I don't know if he has the authority to supersede their action, but he certainly could talk to them, and later expressed disappointment that Gillespie did not comply. The Southern Poverty Law Center has described Bundy's views as closely aligned with those of the Posse Comitatus organization, and says that such views focus on secession, nullification, state sovereignty, and the principles of the Tender movement. Bundy was first praised by some Republican politicians and conservative personalities. And then he made some unfortunate comments and used a word that people don't use anymore to describe Black people on April 19th, 2014. And then everybody turned against him because he used the word Negroes, talking about, I don't know what he was talking about. He said some things that were not good. Wow, Clive. Wow. Okay. I will not repeat it because I'm sure it'll get clipped. So I'm not going to repeat what he said. But it wasn't good. Then again, he has free speech. After his comments, Bundy was repudiated by some conservative politicians and talk show hosts who had previously supported him. Many condemned his remarks as racist. Okay, but it doesn't really matter if Clive is a racist or not. The only question is, who's right about the grazing thing? That's really all that matters here. And should the feds have the unchecked power they have to just come in and bring guns and start shooting people? Alan O'Neill, superintendent of the... Okay, so anyway, let's see. So at some point, Alan O'Neill, who is the superintendent of Lake Mead National Recreation Area and a National Park Service official, was told to back off at one point because of the concern for violence. They claimed that there were threats made against the government workers during that roundup. Let's see. Let's move to the shooting. I know there was a shooting. And I think the judge ruled against him when it went to court. I mean, it should have just been done in court. All of this should have been done in court. Instead of, sending federal agents to his land to round up the cattle, they should have just taken him to court. All right, we're going to get to to baby Cyrus, but I promise you that it plays into this. I'm skipping down here. Here, I'll share this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Share. Wikipedia. There we go. All right. So there were a couple of court cases. I think they stuck it to the Bundys. If I remember, they had to pay fines or something. Roundup yield, First Amendment zones. Confrontations and protests. So yeah, there were a bunch of people who showed up with guns and stuff, and then the feds backed off. It was pretty tense for a couple of days, but I know somebody got shot. Hold on. And Ammon Bundy got tased like 4 times, and he kept pulling him out and continuing to protest, and they kept tasing him. It was brutal. Looking for the shooting. They were asking for BLM to disarm. They wouldn't do it. Why are we going to the Las Vegas shootings? FBI, Capitol. No, I want to know about the shooting that day. Did they not put it on Wikipedia? Because somebody got shot that day. Huh. I am not seeing the shooting. I don't know if the person died. That's what I was trying to figure out. All right. Well, anyway, I don't have time to look for that. Yeah, I'm sure there's video of because it was all filmed, so you guys can go back and watch it. It was, there's a whole lot of stuff, but we have to move on to Baby Cyrus, or we'll never get there. All right. Some of you are asking, what is failure to thrive? Because that's the thing that they said, Baby Cyrus. Now, the way Baby Cyrus is connected to the Bundys is that Baby Cyrus's grandfather, whose name I believe is Diego Rodriguez, is a real good friend of Ammon Bundy. He's like a business partner, and they do podcasts or whatever. They have their, patriotic thing that they do. I don't know. And it's his grandson. So when his grandson was apparently his daughter had a baby, the baby was diagnosed with failure to thrive, which means he's underweight for his age. Now, if you guys have listened to the show for very long, you know that I also had a baby who was diagnosed with failure to thrive, my oldest child, and there was nothing wrong with her. She was literally just genetically small. And there was one doctor who just didn't believe me about that, even though I said I was the same size at her age. She was like 19 pounds at the age of 1, which is very, very small. When she was walking and talking, she looked like a 6-month-old. And people would freak out because they'd be like, did you know that baby can talk? And I'm like, well, yeah, she's 15 months old. But she looked like she was bald and she was super small and like she's running around, and it was just really funny because people would freak out about it. But I was the exact same size, and I made up for it later, I'm not so small anymore. But when I was a baby and little, just genetically small. So I had one doctor who was just really awful. One pediatrician who threatened me and said, if you don't take her to a GI and let them stick a tube down her throat, I might call CPS. And I said, oh, thank you very much. We'll definitely do that. And then I walked out of there and never went back and found a different doctor. So the failure to thrive is also the same thing that they said Rafalina Duval's baby had, which he did. He had, problems gaining weight, and it was an underlying medical condition. And they took her baby because of it too. This is something that CPS, another thing they use and hospitals use to take babies from parents. And failure to thrive can be anything. It can be an underlying medical condition. It can be just food allergies, right? And Lena Duval she was interviewed on Sean McMillan's channel the other night. She was doing everything she could to get the baby to eat more. And the baby ended up having an underlying condition they didn't know about, but CPS just decided to take the baby. Some nutritionist made a phone call and said they thought the baby was being neglected, and there you go. There it goes. Instead of working with the family, and she lost her son for 12 years before she got him back, and there was no abuse involved. So this is the same sort of story, although we don't know because of how crazy this case got. Much of the information that was shared by the family, by Diego Rodriguez, has been ordered off the internet by a judge. So when I went last night and I was trying to look at the information about this case, I found a bunch of videos that have been ordered taken down. And it says on there, taken down by order of the court. But we do have I do have one video that I found on the mother's Facebook page. Now, this is the family we're talking about. Let me pull this up. So this is Melissa and her husband. I forget his name, and baby Cyrus. She has a Facebook page, and there's quite a bit of information on that page about it. Now, when they took so I guess there was some miscommunication or problem between her and the doctors where she canceled an appointment and then failed to show up for the next one because she said she was sick, and they sent the police after her. And then the police arrested her after lying to her and telling her that she could go to the hospital with the baby. They ended up giving the baby back in 1 week. So if the baby was dying, as they said, the baby was so malnourished that he was in imminent danger of dying, which is the only way you can take a baby from a mother without exigent circumstances, or they have to, without a warrant, you have to have exigent circumstances, which means imminent death. If that were true, is it possible to save a baby from imminent death who's that badly malnourished in 1 week? All right, I'm going to show you a video that I did find that has not been taken down yet by Diego Rodriguez, about this case. This is the one video that I have not, that didn't get taken down yet. Let's see. Let's back up. Wait. No. Wait. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? Because I'm not seeing it on. Here we go. Never mind. I had the wrong screen up. Let's try that again. Now, I don't know. Again, this is his side of the story. Obviously, the hospital has their side of the story, and it's going to, I don't know what the truth is here, but we're going to look at the evidence that's out there and see what we think. We're going to read some of the mainstream press about it as well.
Legacy News, St. Luke's Hospital, the Meridian Police Department, specifically Chief of Police Tracy Bastarachea, and mostly the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare have been lying to the public for months regarding the baby Cyrus case. Now, as you may or may not know, every fraudulent charge against baby Cyrus's family members have been dropped because there were no valid charges they could hold against them. Now, the truth is that baby Cyrus was another case of government subsidized child trafficking on behalf of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. You see, every time a child is kidnapped from its parents, every time, the state of Idaho gets paid by the federal government. Now, kidnapping for profit is the definition of child trafficking. So this means that the state of Idaho is literally involved in child trafficking. Now, you shouldn't think that child trafficking only involves like shady drug cartels smuggling kidnapped children across the border to be sold off to the rich elite or sent to Epstein Island or something like that. The truth is that the greatest source of child trafficking and even sex trafficking in America is the CPS system and foster care specifically.
Yeah, that's all true. I mean, everything you just said there is all true, which is one reason why some of these people who get really deep into this Q stuff really go off the rails because, and I've said this many times, I think Q is really unfortunate that people believe that garbage because it keeps them from seeing the actual problem. And the actual problem is we have laws that have incentivized taking children from families through federal dollars. And so we can't, to call it child trafficking is actually very accurate. It is the taking of a child from their home and putting it into foster care, and then there's a payment that's made. That's trafficking a kid. Sometimes it might be legitimate, but a lot of the times, 84%, CPS's own numbers through Health and Human Services are unfounded. So if you take a child from a family and you put them in a foster care family and there are payments made, that fits the definition of child trafficking. But I think where people go off the rails, TX Angel, a lot of the stuff that that Q was peddling was absolutely garbage. Absolutely not true. There's no evidence. There is absolutely no evidence of, satanic child cannibals. Like, there's no evidence of that. There's plenty of evidence of trafficking rings. There's plenty of evidence of, child abusers, but there's no evidence of the salacious and ridiculous things that was being peddled by Q, which was all a distraction to keep you off the actual story. Okay. And I think people like Ammon Bundy who bought into that possibly, because it does seem that maybe he did. And he said some things that got him sued for defamation by St. Luke's Hospital. I was unable to find the actual lawsuit, and I'll find it eventually. I was unable to find right now the actual lawsuit that was filed against him by St. Luke's. He never showed up in court for it. So he didn't put on a defense. And I did find here, let me share this real quick. I will go back to this video in a second because I do want to, we are going to still watch that, but hold on. I want to show you what I did find so that you know what kind of things, because you can't find any of the things he was saying that got him sued for defamation because they've ordered by the judge's order to take it all down. All right, so here's what we have. I think this is this is the United States District Court for the District of Idaho. It was a motion to dismiss. I think it was Ammon Bundy was trying to remove the case to federal court, and the judge didn't allow it. But in this filing, there is one quote in here from Ammon Bundy about some of the things that he said about St. Luke's after they took the baby. This case began in the state of Idaho's 4th Judicial District Court nearly a year ago when defendants St. Luke's Health System, St. Luke's Regional Medical Center, blah, 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 filed a civil lawsuit against plaintiffs Ammon Bundy for Governor, Diego Rodriguez, Freedom Man PAC, People's Rights Network, and Freedom Man Press LLC, collectively Bundy unless otherwise stated. In its suit, St. Luke's brought state law claims for defamation, false light, invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, common law trespass, statutory trespass, violations of Idaho's Unfair Business Practices Act, violations of Idaho's Charitable Contributions Act, and civil conspiracy. These claims arise out of events that took place in March 2022, beginning with St. Luke's treating an infant who was temporarily placed in the custody of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare due to the health and safety concerns. Specifically, St. Luke's alleges that Bundy, in concert with the other plaintiffs, launched a smear campaign against St. Luke's, claiming that it was participating in a widespread, and this is a quote, a widespread conspiracy to kidnap Christian children and traffic those children to the gays, to homosexual couples who would then SA and kill the children. Now that right there, that quote right there, yeah, you're getting yourself into some dangerous territory when you say stuff like that without facts. If you don't have the proof to back that up, that is defamatory. So this is the kind of thing that he got into trouble for. That does not change, though, the fact that the hospital may have, and the police may have kidnapped this kid. The problem is when you assign, this scenario to it, yeah, that's it's a little far, Mr. Bundy. It's a little far. Now, the rest of the stuff, they said Bundy and his supporters also blocked an ambulance bay and took other actions that disrupted operations and caused St. Luke's to be locked down. I'm not really sure about that. I've read a lot of the mainstream media articles about it, and there was actually absolutely no evidence that they were blocking anything. There was a small group of people outside protesting, a lot of older ladies and some older men, like not even like 12 people. Like 12 people. Like, couldn't the police have just moved them to a different sidewalk if they were worried about the ambulance? I think the hospital overreacted by a lot and pretended like they were in some kind of danger here. by a group of 12 people, because they tend to do that. Hospitals like to exaggerate the danger they're in, like the Boston Children's Hospital. Remember when Billboard Chris went and protested outside? One guy goes and protests outside Boston Children's Hospital, and they shut down the whole hospital, claiming they got a bomb threat. Then, when the person was arrested for the bomb threat, no one would release the mugshot of the person. And the police wouldn't give me any information on a FOIA request about it. So it was like, I mean, it's my experience, when the authorities refuse to give you freedom of information requests, they're hiding something. So what were they hiding? Who made the threat? What was it really about? Was it really someone who was against the gender experiments going on at that hospital? Or was it someone who was for it and wanted to cause a ruckus? See, we'll never know, because they won't tell us. They won't tell us what the motivation was for it. And these hospitals, again, when this channel did a calling campaign to University of Oklahoma children's gender, we were calling representatives in Oklahoma about the gender experiments going on with children through the University of Oklahoma University. We called it Woke U. The hospital, the gender clinic, started claiming they were getting her death threats. Well, again, requests for those death threats went unanswered, and no one had any evidence that there were any death threats. So this is something that continually happens when a hospital feels like they're under attack and they're getting public, a lot of public attention on something that they don't want attention on. Suddenly there's death threats, but they're vague and no one will tell you what they really are. And, my thought on that is
bullshit.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. All right. So if Bundy said this thing, which is in quotes, that is definitely something that you could sue for. You can't accuse someone of a crime, and this is a major crime, of SA and murder, without it being true. If it's not true and you're claiming it all over the internet, you can be sued for defamation and lose. And he did lose, but he never even put on a defense. All right, let's go back to the video. And we'll come back to this filing in a bit, but I want to go back to the video so we can watch the rest.
Now, when baby Cyrus was forcefully kidnapped at the point of a gun back in March of 2022 by corrupt Meridian police officers Jeff Fuller and Steve Hansen, they did so under the false premise that baby Cyrus was in imminent danger, which is a legal term that would indicate that baby Cyrus was essentially in danger of dying and would need immediate medical attention, or he would suffer severe bodily injury. Furthermore, according to Idaho state statute, in order for a police officer to have the legal right to forcefully separate a child from his family, they would not only have to show evidence for imminent danger, but they would have to prove that it was Cyrus's parents, Levi and Marissa Anderson, who were the cause through conduct or omission of baby Cyrus.
Stop. Okay, I wanted to look at these documents. Gypsy, you're asking if I have the OU stuff on this channel. I think I had to take it all down because I got demonetized shortly after that, because YouTube doesn't like that topic, but it's all on Rumble. So you can go to my Rumble channel and look for and there were several streams. I did it with a bunch of people. We did a calling campaign. The audience was calling the governor's office. We were calling and we got the law changed. They literally defunded OU unless they stopped doing gender experiments on children. So it was a very worthwhile campaign. All right, I want to read some of these documents that he flashes up on the screen because they used to be on a website called freeman.org, I think, or freeman something, but the court ordered that website be taken down. So all of the evidence that the family put online is no longer available. And I found this one video that had some of it. So he's showing, I guess this is the law about abuse means any case in which a child has been the victim of conduct or omission resulting in skin bruising, bleeding, malnutrition, burns, fracture of any bone, head injury, soft tissue. Okay, so this is just the law. He does have some doctor's records in here, though, that I'm going to pause on later.
Cyrus being in imminent danger. Now, of course, there was not a single shred of evidence produced in the entire process on behalf of police or doctors that such conduct or omission occurred. Now, likewise, there was not a single shred of evidence that baby Cyrus was ever in imminent danger. On the contrary, I am about to show you empirical evidence that demonstrates that all parties involved in baby Cyrus's kidnapping knew that baby Cyrus was healthy and not in any imminent danger, as they have stated to the public. They simply lied to you. What you are about to see and hear is the undeniable evidence that all parties involved, especially and including the Meridian Police Department, St. Luke's Hospital, and the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, all knew, all of them, that baby Cyrus was not in imminent danger and that they had no legal, moral, or ethical right to kidnap baby Cyrus. In fact, they all knew that baby Cyrus was, in the doctor's own words, a perfectly healthy baby, and that he was, as she said, medically stable, and that there was very specifically no acute life threats noted, meaning that he was medically diagnosed by St. Luke's Hospital itself as not being in imminent danger. First, here is the actual medical report from the doctor who first reviewed baby Cyrus at St. Luke's Hospital in Meridian. She very specifically said,
"This is a healthy baby with no interventions. This is a healthy baby with no interventions. This is a healthy..."
All right, now I can see this document here, and I wanted to read it before it flashes off the screen. The what? The attending? No, the sending physician? What physician? The sending physician? I don't know what a sending physician is. Handed us the PT? Does that say PT? Oh, the patient. I don't know what that says. Secured in his car seat. She indicated the patient was in stable condition and requested requested that we leave promptly. She stated, "Just go. This is a healthy baby with no intervention. Joint Commission time out. Complete right consent right patient." The patient in his car seat was secured to our gurney. Patient is a 10-month-old male, acting appropriately for his age. Patient is looking around at surroundings and interacting appropriately. Skin is PMD, does that say? Primary assessment completed. Airway is patent and maintainable by patient. Breathing appears non-labored with no accessory muscle use. No, what? I don't know what that said. Nosed? Does that say nosed? Brachial pulse is normal and of normal strength. No acute life threats noted. No acute life threats noted. Our patient does not appear to be in any physical distress. Transport was uneventful to SLRNC. Operations, patient offload. Something by moved via stretcher. Car seat secured to pediatric unit. No change in patient condition. Verbal something, patient report, handoff, and case were given to the receiving something, left car seat and diaper bag at destination. Okay, so this was the transfer paperwork when they wanted to get him out of the hospital at St. Luke's because they claimed that the Bundys were going to stage a raid. They even piled furniture in front of the doors because this is how the FBI told them that the Bundys were a danger. Now, when the FBI says things like that, you just, do you automatically believe them? Or do you just think, okay, I get it that the Bundys are an activist family. They have caused problems for the federal agents before. Um, so obviously the feds don't like them very much. Could the feds have exaggerated the danger from the Bundys going to raid the hospital and take him back, illegally? I think maybe. I mean, if we're going to get to the actual video of the protest outside, and you're going to be like, these people are going to raid this hospital? Really? They don't look like they could. There's like a bunch of grandmas and stuff. Like, yeah. I don't know if there's captions on Facebook, you guys. I don't believe there are.
Baby. This is a healthy baby. This is a healthy baby. This is a healthy baby.
Now, this means that St. Luke's Hospital knew that baby Cyrus was not in imminent danger, yet they went along with his kidnapping anyway. Now watch as Sergeant Christopher McGilvery, who can be seen as the belligerent tyrant in the videos where he and his associates physically assaulted and manhandled baby Cyrus's father and aunt, and lied to Marissa, telling her that she would never be separated from baby Cyrus, as he speaks with the doctor at St. Luke's Hospital.
But how acutely? Oh no, he's totally stable. He's totally stable. He's totally stable. We just are gonna break some protocols and take an ambulance to a different entrance because it's a medically stable patient. A medically stable patient. A medically stable patient.
The doctor here clearly says that this is a medically stable patient. This is not a patient in imminent danger. His life is not in danger. In fact, the doctor wrote in the medical report that the patient, speaking of baby Cyrus, had, quote, no acute life threats noted, unquote, and that he was a, quote, healthy baby with no interventions, unquote. There were no medical interventions necessary because baby Cyrus was perfectly healthy. So this means that in addition to St. Luke's Hospital, the Meridian Police Department likewise knew that baby Cyrus was not in imminent danger. And likewise, the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare knew baby Cyrus.
Hospice Jess, you're asking if she said break protocol? I don't know. I didn't hear that. Should we go back? Should we go back to hear that? To hear what she said? Oh, yeah. We are just going to break some protocols and take an ambulance through a different entrance because it's a medically stable patient. And when they did put the baby in the ambulance, they then, the ambulance jumped a curb. So it was a pretty rough ride for that baby. And I think they really overreacted. I mean, wait till you see the protesters.
Is tacitly admitting that they knew that baby Cyrus was not in imminent danger since they were actively planning on dumping off baby Cyrus with strangers that same night. Why? Because they got paid when they kidnapped baby Cyrus, and they would get paid again when they put him in foster care. This means that the Meridian Police Department, in cooperation with St. Luke's Hospital and mostly the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, who annually receives literally millions of dollars of compensation for kidnapping children from the federal government, is actively involved in child trafficking, and they are kidnapping healthy babies from godly families. This is happening an average of 4 times a day, every day in Idaho. If they kidnapped a perfectly healthy baby Cyrus and caused an untold amount of damage and suffering to the Anderson family, they can do it to you as well. Idaho police officers are kidnapping children.
Okay, so we don't need to hear him repeat more stuff. Okay. I don't know if saying that Cyrus was a perfectly healthy baby is exactly accurate, because even according to his mother's own reports, he had a chronic vomiting problem, which was why she was taking him to the doctor in the first place and why he was underweight. He wasn't keeping anything down. So that bothers me about this presentation about perfectly healthy baby. Although we saw the medical records that said he was stable with no immediate dangers. And so that part appears true, but he did have a chronic vomiting problem. And so it is possible that the doctors at St. Luke's thought that he was being, I don't know, poisoned in some way or something. I don't know. But they never, like, I haven't seen, because they've taken so much of everything offline that used to be online about this, and I didn't follow it at the time. I don't know what the actual diagnosis is, but he was chronically vomiting. And his mother on her Facebook page talks about his medical problems. Now, here's something that's interesting. All right, let's put this up. Here's a post that was done just this month from his mother. It says, at the beginning of this year, we did a public records request for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Oh, and by the way, I meant to say before we read this, within a week, the hospital returns this baby to his parents. How sick and malnourished could he have been? And if they really thought that they were the abusers, would they have returned him to his parents? I also saw another document in that video, I think it comes later, that said they had planned to put him in a foster care home that evening and not keep him in the hospital. They took him from his mother, took him to the hospital, and then we're going to release him to a foster care family. And if that were the case, then how close to death could he have been? Why wouldn't he have been given immediate medical care? But the protesters outside the hospital forced them to keep the baby in the hospital, and they decided not to give him to a foster family. And then they returned him to his parents in a week. And the news coverage of it is really interesting. Let's go over to one of the, before we go to the Facebook, the updated stuff, let's go to baby returned to parents on KT. There's just a whole lot of questions about this, you guys. Stop sharing, share this instead. Yep. All right. Here we go. Meridian PD, baby returned to parents. No need to continue protests, harassment of healthcare staff, say police. On Friday, MPD on Friday announced the baby was returned to its parents around noon, 1 week after he was removed from the parents' custody. Let's watch this.
To the news at 6, I'm Shira Matzazal. We begin with this. New details on the story of baby Cyrus. Meridian police say the baby who protesters claimed was medically kidnapped was returned to his family. Police say the baby was diagnosed as malnourished and declared to be in imminent danger. Protests were held throughout the week in support of the family.
Look at this protest! You guys, these are the people who are going to raid the hospital. Mostly they look like they've been raiding the chips bags. It's like, what is this? There's like diabetic granny and like what is happening here? These are the people that are going to raid the hospital? Come on. Do we look stupid?
St. Luke's Boise on lockdown. Police say in these situations, the goal is always to reunite the child to its parents.
Look at these cops. So bored. They're like, we got nothing to do here. Nothing to do. All four of us, because all four of us could handle that entire crowd. Like, come on. This is what I mean when I tell you that the way the media reports these things is criminal. Yeah, they locked down the hospital because of this.
Soon as it's healthy enough. Earlier today, a far-right extremist group shared an Ada County judge's personal information.
A far-right extremist group shared a judge's home address where protests happen outside of his home. Now, first of all, addresses are not private. They are everywhere. If you have access to certain databases, if you're a professional in the, let's say, real estate area, or, oh, there's a million different insurance, you can find people's addresses very easily. I can go pay a small fee and find anybody's address, including judges. I don't recommend that you share judges' address or go and protest in front of their homes. But you might recall The Supreme Court, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh had protests outside of his house for like a week straight. And then somebody showed up with a suitcase full of like knives and ropes and plans to take him and his family hostage. Remember that? And then they finally shut down the protests. So if you are a far left group like Antifa, you're allowed to protest outside of a Supreme Court justice's house. They had parties in the street and raves in front of his house. But you can't go to some local Idaho judge's house and wave some signs. I have a real problem with that. Yeah, there's the crux of the problem. Somebody bothered a judge. Yeah, can't do that. Can't do that. So, yeah.
Encouraging its followers to protest at their home. Police say there is no need to continue protesting or harassing public health officials, police officers, or others involved.
Harassing. This is an interesting word because what I'm seeing are people protesting, which is in the Constitution as your sacred right. It's not harassment, it's protesting. So, yeah, there was a vast overreaction to what happened here. And also, I think it's interesting that they get on TV and say, there's no more need for this. You can all go home now. So what they're admitting is that the protests worked. It 100% worked. They gave the baby back in a week. They were upset enough. Yeah, it was more like the hospital harassing parents. Yeah, they got held accountable. Now, it is clear that Ammon Bundy said some things that he could be legally, and he was legally held responsible for. You have to be careful in these situations and not go to extremes and say things that are considered defamation, which he was found to be a defamer. Yeah, Mama Ames says, please leave us alone. Please, please. This makes us look bad. Please. Let's go to another mainstream media. Actually, News Radio. This is really interesting. News Radio 1310. So this is a local. Look at this protest. Look at these dangerous looking protesters. Look at them, grandmas and stuff. Like, yeah, they really look like they're ready to stage a raid, don't they? Now, this was written by a local talk show host called Bill Colley. And I want to read this because it's interesting to me. Are your children and family members the property of the government? I received a question this morning while on air. By now, many of you have heard the story about the baby seized from his parents in Meridian. Child Protective Services maintains that the little boy is underweight and malnourished. The baby was taken by force from his mother after the family missed an appointment with a doctor. Now, I believe they missed 2 appointments, but still. No right-minded person wants to see a child suffer, but this case is raising concerns among some that the state has too much power. The charge comes as CPS and the foster care system are prohibited by law from releasing many details. The courts have told the family they'll need to wait another month to petition for the release of the baby. Can you imagine being told you can't even file a petition for a month after they take your baby? The veil of secrecy is stoking suspicions on social media that the seizure of the little boy is politically motivated. Yeah.
Bullshit.
It's bullshit. The child's grandfather is a well-known businessman and Christian pastor, Diego Rodriguez. The pastor was a vocal opponent of state power under COVID restrictions and is also a close associate of Ammon Bundy. And they hate Bundy in Idaho. Bundy was arrested over the weekend for trespassing outside the hospital where police took the baby. So they arrested Bundy for protesting and called it trespass. Thanks for the super chat. T-Rex Trucking and more says this show should be called Good Morning Bad News with Megan Medium Smart Fox. Keep fighting the good fight. That's funny. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And one from Duncan, Idaho, too, says, how dare these peasants presume to approach within 5 miles of a judge's palatial grounds? We are letting the unwashed pores get away with too much these days. Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting, the double standard. It's fine when the left does it. It's fine when Antifa does it. In fact, the media, it was absolutely orgasmic over Antifa. Here, protest in front of Brett Kavanaugh house. They were orgasmic over these protests. They covered them all night long, and they loved it. They loved every bit of it. Let's see let's look at how they couched it. I'm looking for, Newsweek, video of abortion rights rally outside Kavanaugh's house. They didn't call it a riot. They didn't say it was dangerous. They called it a rally, a rights rally. Look at that. How come the news media didn't call the Bundy protest a parental rights rally? And we're getting this spinny wheel of death. But look, a video showing abortion rights activists rallying outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh this weekend has been viewed more than 2 million times. Activists have planned, not far left activists, not a well-known far left, group that stirs up criminal activity called Antifa. Notice how they call the Bundys a far right activist group connected to all these dangerous militias. Activists have planned several protests outside of the residencies of conservative justices after a leaked draft opinion outlining their intention to overturn the landmark Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade was made earlier this week. Abortion rights supporters have blamed the issue on the makeup of the court, which is currently comprised of 6 conservative leading justices, including Kavanaugh. Outside of Kavanaugh's home in Chevy Chase, Maryland, on Saturday, a group of abortion rights activists. Have you ever been to Chevy Chase? My God, the houses there. Oh, they're so beautiful. Oh, that's an expensive place. We're seen carrying signs while chanting, "We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back. We will not go back. I see you, buddy. We will not go back." Okay, that's so annoying. But look at how no one in Newsweek is talking about there's no danger involved. And then what happens? Some guy with a suitcase full of knives and ropes and stuff is arrested because he was planning on attacking the family. Like literally. And look at here they are. They're hailing these people as basically heroes fighting for abortion rights. Yeah. But when it's the Bundys and they're conservatives, and the government doesn't like them very much, suddenly it's very different. So let's go back over to, what were we reading? This one. All right, let me close down that other tab. Veil of secrecy. Bundy was arrested. Media coverage focused primarily on Bundy's arrest. Otherwise, mainstream media continues its descent into an appendage of the state. The former operator of a daycare center in the Magic Valley called my show and explained CPS usually moves at a glacial pace, but not in this case. I realize that there could be good arguments from the bureaucrats making the decisions, but since the system is created to promote silence, it's only increasing distrust in government institutions. I've got an open mind. I'm willing to listen, but I'm hearing very little. So I thought that was very interesting. I liked that, I liked that article. I thought it was interesting. And it's true that the secrecy is a real problem, because if you're going to hide things and you're not going to tell people the truth, we just think that you're full of, bullshit.
Bullshit.
And that possibly you're very corrupt.
Because you are a corrupt person. You're the most corrupt.
Yeah, very corrupt. No transparency means there's something bad going on. All right, so let's go over to, this one. I love this one. Let's open this. They said I deserved to die. St. Luke's doctor explains how the aftermath of Ammon Bundy's protests affected her life. The St. Luke Meridian doctor had to install security systems in her home and come up with a safe word for her children due to doxing, she cried on the stand. A St. Luke's Meridian doctor began to cry on the stand Friday during anti-government activist Ammon Bundy's civil trial as she explained how his protests and doxing has affected her and her family's life. Okay, again, another picture of this terrifying protest that the FBI was afraid would raid the hospital. On the night of March 11th, 2022, an infant known as baby Cyrus was taken into the custody of Health and Welfare and transported to St. Luke's Hospital after his parents missed multiple doctor's appointments to remedy his health. I think it was 2. But notice how the word choice is now multiple, which leads you to believe it could be a lot more than 2. He was malnourished and underweight, according to Meridian Police Department. Well, that's curious because I don't know how is the police department medically qualified to say that a baby is underweight and malnourished? Do they have the expertise to declare that? It's weird that it wasn't the hospital that said that. The infant was the grandson of Diego Rodriguez, an associate of Bundy. Oh no, an associate. And when Bundy got his followers of the People's Rights Network involved, protests ensued, demanding St. Luke's return the child to his parents. Doxing and harassment of the people involved in the child's care began with the PRN group even sending out alerts to their members, asking them to protest outside the Ada County judge's home. Again, so what? They did it in Chevy Chase, Maryland, to Brett Kavanaugh, and I didn't see anybody having a hissy fit there. Well, so what? Largely, this hasn't ended. Bundy is still posting about Cyrus on the PRN website. Oh no, he's posting things on the internet. St. Luke's health system and other plaintiffs then sued Bundy and Rodriguez for defamation and harassment, prompting a civil trial in the matter to determine how much damage compensation the hospital and others would receive. Bundy and Rodriguez have been absent for the trial. So they didn't show up to put on a defense, which was not a good choice because they lost big. They lost it was a $50 million judgment, and St. Luke's has now taken Ammon Bundy's house, and he has fled the state. That's what happens when you don't show up to defend yourself at these things. And he could have probably settled for less. Because he did say some things that you can't say. I showed you what he said. He said things you cannot accuse a person of a crime if it is not true. That's defamation. All right, let's see. Rachel Thomas was the lead physician in the St. Luke's Meridian Emergency Department that night, and she was not exempt from the doxing and harassment, she told the court on Friday. Thomas conducted the initial evaluation of 10-month-old Cyrus. She said he looked like a baby from Haiti, where she does medical mission trips. Malnourished, thin, sunken eyes, discolored skin, and had no ability to sit up. Well, he was 6 months old. Some babies sit up later than others. He also had a chronic vomiting problem. So I imagine he was thin and he was underweight. But again, then her actual records then for transfer said that he was medically stable. If he did not receive proper care and continue the path he was on at home, he would have died, she said. Thomas gave Cyrus a 2-ounce bottle and he took all of the formula and fell asleep comfortably. She immediately paged the pediatric unit at St. Luke's Boise for more comprehensive care. Thomas said the child was definitely not in good shape, but was medically stable enough to be transported by ambulance. So that's the story, is that she meant that when she said he's a healthy baby and he's medically stable and he's not in danger of dying, she just meant, well, enough for the trip. She began to work on a plan to transport the child there in an ambulance, but that was going to be difficult. Meanwhile, in security footage shown in court, Bundy and his followers are shown outside in the ambulance bay area, filming and waving their hands at security officers, attempting to de-escalate the situation. Oh no, they were filming and going like this. One security officer, Will Woods, told the court that the protesters were yelling and screaming, demanding he hand the child back to them and accusing him of kidnapping. How dare they? My God. What? How dare they use their First Amendment rights to call a hospital kidnappers when they took a kid from his mother at gunpoint? My fear was the crowd was going to breach the doors and jeopardize the safety of everyone inside. Wait. This crowd. Oh no. They're going to breach. With what? Do you see a battering ram? What are they going to breach the doors? There were 4 cops standing in front of the doors. They're going to go through the police officers with what? This is so weird. I mean, why don't they don't have any video footage of this alleged, all they have is video footage of them yelling and screaming and waving their hands. Okay. I mean, forgive me if I just don't believe this very much. I just don't believe this. After asking Bundy to leave multiple times, it became clear he wasn't going anywhere. Oh, you mean a free American was standing on a public sidewalk refusing to leave it because he was protesting? Seems kind of normal. That's what a protest is. After asking, Woods was a former police officer. He and his family moved to Meridian and they thought it would be different, he said. We came here to be safe. It seemed like this was going to throw a wrench in our plans. Woods said even though he had experience with safety threats, he still felt unsafe. And he wasn't carrying a gun. Well, whose fault was that? It's Idaho. I'm pretty sure you can carry a gun if you wanted to. To see something of that magnitude, I was surprised, he said. One woman told me I was going to burn in hell. Oh, no. Oh, no. God.
Nobody cares.
How dare they? Someone said they were going to burn in hell. Sir, burn in hell is a protected form of speech. You know, it's unfortunate that you had this run-in with people that don't like you or whatever. That is not a death threat. It is literally just an insult that is 100% protected by the First Amendment. It's an opinion, and it's protected. Did anybody say this?
Go fuck yourself. But go fuck yourself.
I feel like burn in hell is less insulting than that. Okay. Do you see how this is laughable? How is it that people didn't read this and go, oh, they're so full of shit?
Bullshit.
So full of shit. I forgot what this button is. I'm going to push it. Oh. That's my button for what it sounds like at J-Hatch in the children's wing. It's got the wrong picture on it. For some reason, there's a picture of Joe Biden, so I didn't know what it was. All right. That's funny. In body camera footage shown in court, Thomas is shown telling Meridian police officers about the gravity of the situation. In the background, yelling and screaming is heard. What? You mean like chanting? Did it sound like those people in front of Brett Kavanaugh's house? Weird. Woods and Thomas consulted with their supervisors and agreed to lock the ambulance bay doors manually as the crowd of protesters grew. There was just an entire mob in my ambulance bay, she said. Thomas said she made the difficult decision. I mean, couldn't the police have just brought the, the protest squad or whatever to move them to a different area? I mean, couldn't the police have just backed them off into okay, guys, you can protest, no problem, but we're going to have to move you from the ambulance bay here to the sidewalk over there. So let's go. I mean, I've been to a lot of protests. That happens all the time. All the time. So I don't really understand why they didn't just move them. And I think the reason they didn't just move them is because the situation with them being near the ambulance bay created a good opportunity for them to overreact and make a big deal out of nothing. Thomas said she made the difficult decision to divert ambulances to other hospitals, which gave them the ability to call the media and say, those protesters have caused us to shut down our hospital. We had to divert the ambulances. This is what they do. This is what they do.
Bullshit.
This was a big decision, she said, considering her hospital gets up to 5 ambulances in the ER every hour on a Friday night. Thomas estimated that on that night, around 20 ambulances were sent away while Bundy and his followers stood outside blocking the emergency entrance. This is the police's fault for not moving them. Are you telling me that the police were not capable of moving this small group of protesters to another sidewalk? And even if it was a little bigger than this, I've been in huge protests and the police keep you right where they want you. Just get the guys on horseback and you just walk the horses into the crowd and you herd those people where you want them. You set up a thing, you put them behind it and you say, have fun. But don't cross this line. Okay? This is coordinated. It's coordinated to make it seem like it was out of control. Well, where are the police to control it? That's their job. It's weird how there's no information here about what police did about this blocking of the ambulance bay situation, other than have the hospital shut down the whole hospital. This is about getting bad newspaper press for the Bundys. It's about getting more negative press for the Bundys, taking every opportunity to get them bad press.
You are fake news.
All right. Yeah. Max says, Bull, I want to see the security camera footage on blocking the ER ambulance bay. Yeah, me too. So dramatic. Let's see the footage. And why didn't they just call in the police to move them? It doesn't make sense. They have crowd control. They're trained for that. They're trained for crowd control. That's part of their job. So it's negligence for the police to not have moved protesters to a safe area. Their job is to keep the public safe and to keep, the hospital safe. And they didn't do that then. If what they're saying here is true, the police failed to do their job. Thomas said she had to be creative and come up with another plan to transport Cyrus to Boise that wasn't through the main entrance. So EMS arrived at the back entrance with no lights or sirens. Thomas carried the child in a blanket through the hospital with Meridian police officers clearing each zone. They're clearing rooms ahead of her. They're clearing rooms as she's going through the hospital. They got to be kidding me. To make sure there were no threats. Cyrus was then safely transported from the Meridian location to Boise, and Bundy was arrested for trespassing on the St. Luke's property. More protests at the St. Luke's Boise location followed for days. Nurses, doctors, and other employees were instructed not to enter or exit the building and not to open the doors to anyone. Incoming ambulances carrying patients were diverted away from St. Luke's to St. Alphonsus and other area hospitals. people seeking medical attention were asked to go to other facilities, while the general public was urged to avoid the area entirely. You see that? So they got on the news and they told everyone that there's a major situation going on. We had to shut down the hospital and divert things, and look at all this look at what these terrible people are doing.
You are fake news.
T-Rex Trucking and more, thanks for the super chat. Also, an ambulance, full lights and sirens blaring the air horn wouldn't make the protesters move. Yeah, I bet they would. I bet they would. So Great Dane says, oh my God, this was a shit show. I live in Boise. Bundy basically had the hospital on divert. Well, did you witness that? Or were you watching the news that told you that? Because I've seen all the pictures the media has of the protesters are like 12 people, half of whom are obese and grandmas. So did you see it with your own eyes, or did you listen to the news and what they told you? Because none of this is adding up to me. I'm reading your chats. Hold on. Lois Thomas says, with all due respect, why are these doctors like this? Was she a child abuse expert doctor? I'm actually not sure. I haven't gotten into researching the doctors yet, or, who was involved. Do we know why the baby was underweight? Biggs wants to know. Yeah, he had a chronic throwing up problem. He had chronic vomiting. And there was no reason to take him away from his mother. Obviously, they could have taken her to the hospital and they wouldn't let her come. And they traumatized her for no reason because they gave the baby back to her in a week. So that should not have happened. They should have just let the mother go to the hospital and none of this would have happened. Great Dane Mom said, yes, I was there. Were you there in front of the hospital when it was going on? How many people were in front of the hospital? Okay, she says there were a lot of people surrounding the hospital. Okay, well, were the police trying to do anything about, keeping crowd control under control? Like, did they block off a free speech section like we've seen in other protests? I mean, I've been to a lot of protests. I've been to protests in DC with hundreds of thousands of people, and the police do crowd control. Great Dane Mom says they did not move for anyone or anything. Well, how is that possible? I've been to these okay, I'll take your word for it. If you're saying that these people were just simply refusing to move and the cops could do absolutely nothing about it, I find that very hard to believe. I do. I find it very hard to believe. Have you ever been in a protest with police on horseback? Have you ever had a police horse come walking at you? You will move. You don't have a choice. Have you ever been to a protest with the cops with the shields and they just step forward and they move you back? I've covered protests like that. You move. So I don't believe that police could not have moved those people out of the ambulance bay and onto the public sidewalk area. I just don't believe I believe they did not move them on purpose. Yeah. Well, then they start. Yeah. Were they unable to arrest these people who were in the ambulance bay who would not move? Since when do cops issue orders, people don't obey, and then they just go, well, I guess we'll have to shut the hospital down? What? They would have probable cause to arrest you then if you didn't move. I don't. This is in Boise. That's a big city. They have a lot of cops there. I find it very hard to believe that they could not move these people.
Bullshit.
I think what I'm trying to say is they did not move them. They chose not to move them. Yeah, I mean, if you're blocking an entrance to anything, the police have a right to move you. So why didn't they? And I don't believe it's because they couldn't. So, Great Dane, if you have more information on that, like what were the cops doing? Were they just asking them to, like, can you move out of the ambulance bay, or did they issue an order? You know, like okay, they get on the speakerphone and they're like, anyone who doesn't move out of the ambulance bay in the next 5 minutes is going to be subject to arrest and prosecution. And then you wait the 5 minutes and then you start cracking heads. So I don't, and that's how cops behave. I've never seen cops be like, well, I guess we'll just shut down the hospital and inconvenience all these sick people. It's so weird. Yeah, and Mama Ames said, why didn't the media show them blocking the ambulance bay and refusing to move? Where's that footage? I don't know, maybe it's out there. I mean, all the articles that I've seen, I haven't seen any of that. Yeah, Great Dane, we already went over that. We went over that. I thought that was in well, I don't remember what state. It doesn't matter. We already went over that in the beginning. I know who the Bundys are. I know that the feds hate them. I know that they're a little kooky. But they basically just really love their freedom too much is really what, and they don't obey the federal government very well. They're not good listeners, apparently. Yeah. Why just arrest one man, arrest them all if they all refuse to move? Yeah. I mean, how come they arrested one guy and not all the people who were supposedly blocking the entrance? These are all very good questions. Okay, so Great Dane Mom says Bundy protests on a regular basis. They hauled him out of court in an office chair, handcuffed. He doesn't show up to court. Right. The Bundys don't play by the rules. I know this. They don't play by the rules. They hate this guy. So everywhere he goes, they find a reason to arrest him. And now they've driven him out of the state. He's gone. Yeah, he has some videos on his channel. We'll watch a couple to see. But there were a bunch that were removed. Now, maybe it was the ones where he was saying the things that were determined to be defamation. But a lot of the videos, the entire website where they said they had posted all the documents involved is gone. Yeah, why didn't the media include pictures that represented this dangerous, scary crowd accurately? I think it's because they don't have those pictures. Because if they did, they would have used them. Great Dane says, our media sucks. I never watch the local news. Well, we see that. We're seeing that. They suck.
You are fake news.
If it was that bad, the media would have plastered it everywhere. Yeah, absolutely. They would have. The media they do everything for clicks and stuff. So dial up. I think Bundy had all of that. The police body cam footage. And that's what was on that website that got taken down. I'm sure he had all of it. Because he is nothing if he is not a gadfly. Like, he bothers them. He does FOIA requests all the time. He got a bunch of the body cam footage. That's how we have the video. And I'm going to show you the video of them taking the baby from mom because it's really bad. Cops lie to her. It's very bad. The website address, I do have it here somewhere. It's in one of these articles we're going to go over. So let's get back to where we were. Nurses, doctors, and employees were instructed not to enter or exit the building. Okay. It didn't end there. Even though Cyrus was later returned to his family after a short stint in the pediatric unit, which is so weird. If these doctors thought he was dying and so malnourished by his parents, why did they give him back? And how was he well in a week? It doesn't make sense unless they made a mistake. And, the best thing they could have done is to say, we made a mistake and we're sorry. And all the charges were dropped against her. So her arrest charge, she was arrested for, I don't know, something like either disorderly conduct or obstruction of justice. And that was all because she wouldn't give her baby to the police. They had to forcefully take the baby. And so because of that, they charged her with obstruction of justice. Can you imagine? One of the videos depicted body cam. Okay. Rodriguez began posting videos on his website, Freedom Man Press. That's the website, freedomman dot something. And I have it in another one. One of those videos depicted body camera footage of Thomas speaking with MPD officers. She told them that the child was medically stable for transport, but Rodriguez argued in his videos this meant Cyrus was healthy and St. Luke's was lying. Rodriguez also posted a filing of EMS records, which said Cyrus was a healthy baby with no interventions and he was medically stable, claiming this was from Thomas. But Thomas said this was not her report and her words were taken out of context. So she's saying that's the EMS report. But still, why would the EMS report say that he was a healthy baby with and medically stable if he was so malnourished that he was dying? Because that's what she says. But Thomas said this was not her report. She told EMS Cyrus was a healthy baby at one point and was medically stable, meaning Cyrus would not die on the way to Boise from Meridian. Rodriguez posted this video on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, which went viral in the far-right community. I was no longer able to read the comments. They threatened my life and threatened to take my children, Thomas said. They said I deserved to die. Dr. Thomas, people saying on Facebook that you deserve to die is not a threat. That is not an actionable threat. And you know that. That is an opinion that some people have. And they may not be, it may not be very nice. I don't think it's a good idea to say things like that on social media, but we have the First Amendment here. And unless you want to live someplace like England where you get dragged out of your house in the middle of the night for posting spicy memes, then you have to put up with some free speech you don't like, including people saying they think you deserve to die. That is not a threat. It's just not. Where are the other threats that you said you got? Because that one is not a threat. A threat is, I'm going to go to this person's house and kill or maim them. I'm going to do that. That's a threat. You know, like I know where you live and I will be there at whatever time to do this thing. But somebody posting on social media that she should go to hell, that's very much like saying go to hell, or that she deserves to die, or you should not kidnap other people's children because that makes you a bad person. Those are not threats. Thomas and her husband installed security cameras at their home and eventually had to reach out to her children's principal for more advanced safety protocols. Okay, by the way, I received threats, actual actionable threats, for a stupid thing that happened that we won't talk about. But I got threats that were like people posting my address and asking for people to shoot me in the head. Now that's a more actionable threat. And actually, no, it wasn't, because the police wouldn't do anything about that. I reported it and they were like, well, what do you want us to do? Like, well, find out who said that. I don't know. Like, that's scary. And maybe that kind of thing happened to her too, but I'm telling you, it happened to me and police were like, can't do anything about that. Nope. I had people say they were going to grape me and my daughters. They were posting these things online. That was also not considered an actionable threat. I had people say that they were going to call the state on my children. That was not an actionable threat either. So the idea, I want to see what is the threatening of your life that you're saying, because I know I've been down this road. Cops won't do anything about that. So you're just saying it to say it, I guess. And maybe it did scare you. I mean, it very well could have. It scared me. And putting up security cameras is a good thing to do in this day and age. It's a scary world. But are any of these threats actually threats? My daughter, or her child's dance studio, also began locking the doors early at night just in case something were to happen. Well, were they given any information that something was going to happen? Or they just did that on their own volition to be extra careful? Like, a lot of this is just overreacting. A lot people who say things online most of the time do not translate that into real life. Most things that get said online are just words, okay? And those people online don't actually get off the couch and come and do anything. It's uncomfortable for people to be saying things about you and your family online, but it isn't illegal. I know. I've gone to the police about stuff like this. It's not illegal. My daughter is a tough kiddo, but Thomas began, but broke down in tears. She paused momentarily and asked for a tissue. This caused our daughter to see a counselor. Well, maybe you shouldn't have told your daughter that you were under these threats, because how else would she know? Unless you told her. And you overreacted because nothing happened. So you caused your daughter to go to a counselor. Or maybe it was much worse than this and she's just not telling the media. But why wouldn't the media want to know? Like, what were the threats? If there were really threats, like, and the cops did stuff about it, like, well, they should print that. What were the threats? I mean, when I got them, I printed them. I showed everybody what they said. So I don't know what is the reticence to show these particular threats, but it's always vague threats. The worst thing she said was that they said I deserved to die. That's not a threat. When she told her daughter she was leaving, I have a constant fear to be in my own home, she told the jury. I'm moving with my family to New Zealand in September and will hopefully be able to come back home. Well, that seems like I keep saying overreaction, but I can't think of a better word for it. That seems like going way overboard. You could just go to maybe a different neighborhood. When she told her daughter why she was leaving Friday morning to testify in the trial, she said her daughter was fearful she would be hurt. But Thomas told her it was time to stand up to the bully. Well, she had never been hurt before, so why would she believe she was going to be hurt that day? People think that the Bundys are like these violent maniacs, but the only people that got shot during that standoff the only people doing the shooting were the feds. The Bundys didn't shoot anybody. Far as I know, the Bundys have not shot anybody. So why does everyone consider them to be so violent? They have done a lot of protesting. That's true. They have a lot of, grievances with the state, which you're allowed to have. They have disobeyed some laws, which you're allowed to do at your own risk. They have paid the price for that. They have been fined millions of dollars, and now Ammon Bundy is on the hook that St. Luke's now owns his house. So, it's serious, but this is the way they are. These are the Bundys. Like, you gotta just understand who the Bundys are. But I've not known them to be violent. I've never seen any indication that they have shot anybody. The feds did, though. The feds shot people on there, and they tased Ammon Bundy several times. We want to provide good quality care. I'm here to show we don't tolerate bullies. This is our home. To affect my family, I'm not okay with it, she told the jury, no matter how. Well, what about the Andersons? What about the people who lost their baby because of your hospital? It was okay to affect their family, but not yours. So the court ruled against the Bundys. Bundy didn't show up. Yeah, Flux, it's theatrical. It's very theatrical. Truth Seeker says, so the Bundys weren't responsible for the shootings and the deaths? How inconvenient. I don't think so. We couldn't find the information on the shooting. I know someone was shot. I don't know if he died or not, but it was the feds that did the shooting. So it wasn't the Bundys, or they'd be in jail. They're not in jail, so it couldn't have been them. Okay, we can stop this now. But that's like the most damning article that's out there about this, that they think is, going to convince us that the hospital did nothing wrong. And yet there's no information in it. There's no photographs of this alleged mob. There's no video of the Fed shot Lavoie in the back. Is that the one during the Bundy standoff? Because I couldn't find the info on it. It wasn't on Wikipedia anyway. Let me see if I can find it, because I'm tired of not knowing. Let's see. Bundy shooting. Lavoie Finicum shooting. Was that Lavoie Finicum? Yes. All right, let's see. I think this is it. All right, let's see. Share screen. I mean, I know Wikipedia, it's not the greatest source, but we got to take what we can get right now. He was one of the American militants who staged an armed occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in January 2016. Is this the right one? Yeah. After it began, the occupying force organized itself as Citizens for Constitutional Freedom. But I thought the Bundy thing happened in 2014. Were there two? Were there two? Did he do this twice? He was the only fatality of the occupation. On January 26, 2016, law enforcement officers attempted to arrest Finicum and other occupation leaders while they were traveling on a remote highway to meet with supporters in the next county. When Finicum's truck was finally stopped by a roadblock, he exited the vehicle into deep snow. Oh, I feel like I saw this video. And Finicum was then shot to death. Officers later found a loaded weapon in his pocket. Two different events. There were two different standoffs. Okay, so this has been going on for a while. Before the occupation, Finicum lived in Arizona, where he made a living as a foster parent and operated a cattle ranch. According to the High Country News, the public record on Finicum is thin prior to 2014. All right, we don't care about his bankruptcy. I want to know about the... yeah, I remember seeing that. So the only person who was shot in these standoffs was Lavoie Finicum, and he was shot by BLM. I think it was Bureau of Land Management. Was it Bureau of Land Management that shot him? I want to make sure I say the right thing. Yeah, conservationists who carry weapons and can shoot you. So the gun was still in his pocket. Yeah. I mean, and everybody has a gun in Idaho. So just having a gun in your pocket is not a probable cause to shoot you. Yeah, you know what that is.
Bullshit.
So yeah, he's the only one that was shot in any of these standoffs. So the fact that the Bundys get this reputation as being violent is really not, it's not true. BLM is violent. ATF is violent. But the Bundys, not so sure. There's no evidence that they're violent. But that's how the media keeps portraying them, as these violent far-right extremists. And you really do have to be careful when you read these things. Because it may be, it's very possible that Ammon Bundy says things he shouldn't say. Sure sounds like he did in this case. The one thing we found in the court filing was definitely could be viewed as defamation, and was. Maybe he's an exaggerator. Maybe he doesn't have all his facts straight. But it does not appear to me that this hospital acted correctly in this case. All right, let's go and find the video of the baby being taken from mom. Now, I think I hold please while I look for this. Let's see. I think I have some hold music here for you, but wait a minute. It's just... All right, here's one that I need. That's not the one. All right, I found it. I found it. Thank you for holding. All right.
While they go to the hospital. Watch. Here's a short video of Christopher McGilvery, who's the sergeant, and Detective Hansen lying to Cyrus's mother about being able to stay with him while they go to the hospital. Watch this.
We know.
I really need your help right now.
We're only here concerned for yourself. Talk to me, okay? What are you desperate about? What do you need?
I can't be separated from him. I can't.
Okay.
I didn't do anything wrong. I know I didn't do anything wrong.
Here's the deal.
This is a very big mistake.
Why have you not taken him to the doctor today?
I'm not feeling well, and I didn't think it'd be a problem to visit him, and I've
But
done
you
that
know
before.
that we've been looking for you guys all day.
So the one speaking right now is Christopher McGilvery, and he's supposed to be the sergeant in charge.
So we're going to take him to the hospital. If you want to go, you can
Can
come
I
along.
ride with him?
Yes, you can. Okay. We'll get an ambulance here to transport you. Okay? So what I want you to do, though, is get in here. I'll let him back.
So he says, yes, you can go with. You can go with. You can ride in the ambulance.
I'll give him right back to you.
Promise me you won't let him.
But these guys are going to make sure that you don't have any weapons.
Promise. I
I'll stay
promise.
right here with you. With you.
Not at my side.
You're going to be right next to the baby. Okay? They're going to make sure you don't have any weapons or anything like that.
There's Hansen. He just
What's your name?
chimed in.
I can't let him go.
What's your name? I will stand right here with you, I promise.
You have to take him from me. I
Okay.
can't.
Okay. It's okay.
No.
No. Come here. It's okay. They're going to check and they will give him right back to
I
you.
can't.
I will
I
give him right
promised him I
back.
wouldn't let him
I
go.
will give him right back to you. Okay? But you got to promise me. Okay?
I will give him right back to you, liar.
She's just terrified that they're going to take this baby.
You're going to be right here. And if you promise me you go to hospital with me and you'll ride with him and then ambulance. We'll take you to the hospital, okay? You too. We're worried about him. You too. He's okay.
We're going to go in the ambulance. You too. You're coming with us.
So come with us, okay?
So they made her a promise right there. You can ride with the ambulance.
Now, does he look like he has sunken eyes to you? Remember what that doctor said? Sunken eyes. This baby doesn't look like he has sunken eyes. That looks like a small baby. He's a tiny baby. I had a tiny baby too. But my baby wasn't, and he has this vomiting thing. He has like a condition. But I mean, did the doctor said he looked like a baby from Haiti that was suffering from, malnourishment. He looks okay there. His eyes don't look sunken.
I'll stand right here with you.
Can I hold him while you do what you have to do?
Well, no, because I got to check.
Now they walk her to the ambulance, bring her in, and then Hansen goes in, and here he goes in, and he goes in, shuts the door. We'll see here. Now they got her in there alone when no one can see them, and the real business now starts to take place because they start to try to tell her that she's got to go, and they got to give the baby to her or him.
You can't take him. You can't. Can you help me out here? Please?
My concern today is for him.
I know your concern is for him, but I don't cause him any harm by being with him. Okay, I'm his mother.
You hear that? She doesn't cause him any harm for being there.
You understand what happens when the state takes custody of babies? I've seen this so many times. I can't be that next person. I can't.
At this point, you need to give him to the EMT, and you can go on your merry way with your friends and your family who's out there.
That's not Mary at all.
Or I remove him from you and you go to jail. You need to make that decision. You need to make it now, please.
I won't let him go.
Okay. She's going to jail. Put your hands on your back. Okay.
So they lied to this little mother. They told her that she could stay with her baby. She was terrified. They multiple times promised her that she could stay with the baby. And then when they got her in the ambulance, they began trying to separate her and make her leave the ambulance while they take the baby to the hospital. Sergeant Christopher McGilvery and Detective Steve Hansen lied to this little mother to get her into the ambulance so they could take her baby from her. And this is pure evidence of that.
Okay. This is a great point, Helene T. See how suddenly they have enough police force, but when Granny is standing in front of the hospital, they can't help themselves? Yeah, I mean, they have no problem arresting this mom, but not the people blocking the hospital doors. Mama Ames says, what? Go on your merry way. What the F? Yeah. How is that merry in any way? So yeah, I don't, for what crime, Flux, you want to know? The crime of not making her doctor's appointment. But I mean, look, nobody is charging her with child abuse. Why couldn't she go to the hospital with the baby, which is what they said she could do, and she agreed to go? But they didn't. They wanted to separate her because they had every intention of putting that kid in foster care. But Ammon Bundy stopped it from happening. So all the lengths he went to, whatever it was that he did, he got that baby back because they gave the baby back because they didn't want the protests anymore. They gave him back in a week. If they really believed that the parents were starving that kid, they would not have given him back. All right, so here's another one this is a recent one of Ammon Bundy because the media is now reporting that he has disappeared. Well, he hasn't disappeared. He's still out there. Like they're saying he vanished. Ammon Bundy vanished. Well, this was just 21 hours ago, he didn't disappear.
First of all, I just need to let you know that my family and I are okay. We are displaced, and it's been a rough few weeks, but we're okay, and we still love each other, and we're still together, and we're still looking forward to the future. I felt it was necessary to just report of what this case what precedents this case is setting in Idaho. I think it's important for people to understand that because, number one, this case is setting the precedents that the state can take children even when their parents have done nothing wrong. Levi and Marissa did nothing wrong. That's baby Cyrus's parents. They were dealing with a food allergy that caused Cyrus to throw up and vomit when he would get certain proteins, and it was not imminent. Unless he would throw up a lot, then they were worried about him being dehydrated, and that's why they went to St. Luke's Hospital to make sure that he wasn't dehydrated after he vomited for a period of time. And of course, St. Luke's did their thing and made Levi and Marissa an enemy of the state and ultimately instigated the taking of baby Cyrus. And Levi and Marissa did nothing wrong. They were trying to figure out what was causing this vomiting, and they went to St. Luke's for help. And now the only mistake they made was going to St. Luke's. And I hope we learn from that. But this case is setting the precedence that the state can take children from their parents even when their parents did nothing wrong. Now, two, this case is setting the precedence that the Idaho courts can be used to change history and force the removal of any opposing fact or evidence from the internet.
They forced him to take down all of the
Now,
evidence he had.
In the past, this
And
was
because
called
of
book
it,
burning.
and because of it, I can't tell you what the evidence is. I can't see it. I don't have access to it. So I will drop the link to this full video if you guys want to go and watch it. I don't have time to play the whole thing because I need to get out of here soon, and I still have other things I want to go over with you. Let's get to what's going on with Cyrus's family right now, because this bothers me a whole lot. And so no matter what you think of Ammon Bundy, and he is a colorful character, the whole family, very colorful character, and he may end up in jail someday. He's clearly, he's an interesting guy. And I don't know if everything he says is accurate, because we can't get the documents. The documents have all been sealed or whatever, and the courts don't want you to see it, which bothers me. You know, that's a problem. How do I zoom in? Oh, here we go. Okay, wait. No, that's zooming out. Zoom in. Darn it. How do I... Sorry, I'm not going to be able to do this properly. All right, that's as big as I'm going to be able to get it. Okay. At the beginning, this is from Baby Cyrus's mom. At the beginning of this year, we did a public records request for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, IDHW records, for Cyrus's records, which we have the right to as his parents. Their response was that it would take too many hours of legal review to provide them for free, so we'd have to pay for the legal review. We tried to go back and forth on it, and Levi ended up paying the $530 that they requested for legal review. They cashed the check and sent an email saying that they needed more than 10 business days to complete the legal review and that they would have it ready by November 9th. IDHW records requests are not supposed to take more than 3 business days to be released. So that's why they had to send me a written notice that they would need longer than 10 days. They would need 10 days. 11/9 comes and they have not sent the records. So I emailed them on 11/12 telling them that I haven't received the records yet. There was no response. So I called yesterday and talked to a lady at IDHW that says, sorry, they're not ready. I pushed her to check on the status, and she said she'd call me back the next day, today. I also followed up with that call with another email. She did not call me back today, so I called again, and the same lady says that the office has all come down with something and they've been slow. So I asked for a new deadline, and she said she couldn't give me a new deadline or even a time estimate because it's just a lot of documents. It was left open-ended, and they gave me no guarantee on when we will get these records. I suspect these records could have some important evidence that they don't want us to see, and they may be trying to cover it up or wait us out. They did this before when Levi tried to get the medical records from St. Luke's, and they wouldn't give the records over until he persisted in person and waited in the St. Luke's waiting room for hours. I'm afraid that if we don't aggressively follow up or make it public, that we may never get those records, or it may take a very long time from now. I will keep calling and demand the records, but I would truly appreciate it if some of my friends could also call Idaho Department of Health and Welfare and ask them to release the medical records of Cyrus Anderson to his parents who paid for them already. You can request to speak with the supervisor as well. The number is 208-334-5700. 208-334-5700. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to call the Department of Health in Idaho and ask them why they have not given over the records to the family, to the Andersons, that have already been paid for. They are their records and they need them. I'm going to call on behalf of the press and ask them as a thank you, Squid Pro Pro. Yes. I'm going to ask them, what just happened? Can you guys still hear me? I wonder if my earbuds are going out. I just heard a major change in my... Anyway, I'm going to call them with a press inquiry to find out why they haven't released those records yet. They are violating the law of Open Records Act if they are not going to turn over those records, and they need to. And when you make phone calls like this, be very calm, be very polite, and just ask them. Don't get angry. Don't be upset. Don't say nasty things to anyone, because you know how they turn that in. You know what they do? They say we got death threats. So you don't ever want to do anything that could make anyone twist what you have to say, even though I think they just lie anyway. But you call nicely and you say, look, I read about this, and I believe this family has paid you money for their records, and we would like you to hand them over now, because it's been more than enough time. Can you hand over the records, please? And I'm going to be asking them to comment for an article about why they haven't done this yet. So I'll be working on that later today. But I mean, look, what I'm seeing here is a family who is looking for answers about why this happened, and they're not getting answers. And there's a whole lot of secrecy surrounding this. And it's not okay that the government is not abiding by what it is supposed to be doing, which is turning over records that are owed to a family. Look how cute. Thank God he was returned to his family. But look, so here's the other thing. So here's the charges against mom were dismissed. Judge Fortier dismissed the case today, and baby Cyrus is finally free. No more court, no more CPS. The family says we have no words to express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude for everyone involved who has supported our family. Now see, this is the website right here, freedomman.org. And when you click on it, look what happens. Can't reach this page. This was taken down by a court order. Yes, of course, medical records belong to you. But you know, when they don't want you to see what's in them, they don't hand them over. And it's a real problem. So this case, and also the case against mom for her obstruction of justice was dropped. So if any of these things were true, none of that would be dropped. And I'd like to know how the hospital explains how they saved this baby's life in a week and then gave him back to the people they thought did this to him. I mean, there's just a lot of questions. And no matter if you like Ammon Bundy or you think he's a liar, you think it doesn't change what they did here in this case. Nothing changes that. And I'm seeing a whole lot of things that need more investigating and more. And this is just the first couple of, like, I spent like an hour looking through these articles and stuff. There's one other article that I did not get to share with you. Now, this is like, this website is, I don't recognize. It's something called redoubtnews.com. It's probably a, I mean, I usually like to check out like who runs this. It could be one of these Patriot News Network things. I've never heard of Redoubt, but I think this might be the same article that they put on the website that got taken down by True Idaho News. Again, I don't know who they are either. Let me go over there. Who's True Idaho News? So obviously this is the family side of this story. This is not, they don't have any quotes in here from anybody else. So on Tuesday, December 13th, Marissa Anderson announced that all charges surrounding the baby Cyrus court cases, including the resisting and obstructing arrest charges leveled against Marissa, the baby's mother. Did she resist arrest? She didn't look like she resisted to me. She resisted giving up the baby. Is that a crime? And Miranda, the baby's aunt, have been dropped. So they charged her aunt too. In a case that made national news, police from Meridian displayed an excessive show of force in abducting baby Cyrus in March of this year, which I think we saw on the video. Without clear evidence, Meridian police detectives Jeff Fuller declared that baby Cyrus was in imminent danger. Once the vehicle driven by the parents was pulled over, no on-site inquiries were made. No statuses were checked. With no reason to do so, police aggressively manhandled and handcuffed the baby's father. Now, there's some argument to whether he was handcuffed or not. But we did see video of him being roughly pulled out of the car along with the aunt. Whether they handcuffed him or not really doesn't matter. They were detained and they were basically arrested. They weren't charged. Dad wasn't charged, but mom and aunt were. And so the people who are like telling me on Twitter, you don't want to look at this case. Don't do this case. It will ruin your reputation. Are quibbling over details like the father was never handcuffed. Sir, does that really matter? Does it though? Does it matter? We don't know exactly what all the details here are because much of the video footage has been taken off of the internet because of a judge's order. So I'm not going to argue with you about details. Maybe he wasn't handcuffed. Okay, fine. They still did what they did. Lois Thomas, what reputation? You mean my reputation for being a loudmouth and, medium smart? I mean, what exactly are you worried about here? I'm allowed to read about news stories and tell you what I think about them. All right. Once there were no statuses were checked, aggressively manhandled and handcuffed the baby's father, and Sergeant Christopher McGilvery slammed him against the vehicle without cause. We saw that. Then, without bothering to check the identity of the woman in the front seat, McGilvery aggressively manhandled and handcuffed her. The woman was actually the child's aunt, Miranda. When Miranda stated that she was not the child's mother, McGilvery then said she was under arrest for providing false information to a police officer. Miranda was double cuffed and put in the backseat of a police car. Once McGilvery realized the mother was still in the car with the baby, he became like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Opening the back door of the vehicle, McGilvery softened his voice tone and blatantly lied to the mother, telling her they needed to take the baby to the hospital in the ambulance and that the mother, Marissa, could go with if she wanted. We saw that video. As the video shows, McGilvery blatantly lied to the mother on multiple occasions. Once he baited Marissa into the ambulance, then we saw what happened. Documents produced later by St. Luke's Hospital indicate they knew the baby was not in imminent danger. Rather than keep the baby in the hospital for observation, Child Protective Services had planned to shuffle the child to a foster family the same night the baby was abducted. The abduction caused dozens of people to protest. Dozens. There are dozens of us. I need that on a button. There are dozens of us. Officers couldn't control dozens of people. My God.
You are fake news.
Oh.
Bullshit.
All right, so during the ensuing days, protests also occurred outside Health and Welfare Services. Some people working inside CPS realized that a grave injustice was occurring, and they secretly emailed evidence of what was really going on to the child's grandfather. Now, this, we don't know if this is true or not. I have not seen the evidence of this, so it would have been helpful if the person writing this had actually printed the emails, if they existed. So I have a question about that. I would like to see that. I have reached out to the mother. I've reached out to Marissa. I've reached out to Diego. Does not appear to have a Facebook page, or I would have reached out to him too. I reached out to Ammon Bundy to ask him if he has some of this stuff. I would like to see this. This piece of evidence right here would be very, very helpful. If they really did get some inside whistleblower information from CPS, that would be amazing. But there's no evidence of that here, so I don't know if that's true. This helped get the truth out because Judge Lori Fortier issued a gag order on the parents, threatening them with arrest if they spoke publicly about the case. I hate gag orders. They're unconstitutional. They should never happen. No evidence of danger or neglect. They have to be in imminent danger to be taken from parents. The parents must be shown to be the cause of that danger, either by conduct or omission. Once in front of the judge, neither prosecutor Kyle Bringhurst nor CPS representative Roseanne Prince could produce any clear evidence of danger or neglect. Diego Rodriguez, the grandfather of baby Cyrus, created a webpage that outlined the multiple laws broken and constitutional rights violated, and that's the website that is no longer available, freedomman.org. Yeah, I wonder if the Wayback Machine, could show us that. Let's see. Let me look. Nope. They took it all down. Well, let's see. Let's try this one. Nope. Nothing. Nothing. Try one more time. Nope. It's gone. What about archive? Let's try archive. Yeah, if you really want to, if the government wants to, they can delete stuff from the Wayback as well. Nope, it wasn't archived either. Okay, you tweeted me something. Did you find a link? That would be interesting. I can look at that later. Let's see. Ooh, you found one. How did you find that? Oh my God, you did it. You did it. But wait, we have to go back. We have to go way back. We have to go back to 2022. There we go. You did it. Great job. Let me see if it comes, if it's still, it does come up. Okay. I'm going to have to look through this because supposedly they put a lot of documents on there. I don't have time to do that now. I got to get running. I've got to go, but I just wanted to show you some of this story. I mean, I still have questions and stuff. I do. I still have questions. But, oh, hang on a second. Where's my... I have questions about all of this. I think that it doesn't look to me like they did the right thing here. And I mean the hospital. Regardless of Ammon Bundy's, background or his personality or anything like that, it doesn't look like the hospital did the right thing. And I see a lot of the same playbook that I've seen in other cases, including Maya Kowalski and Lena Duvall. So thanks for that link. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. All right, I got to get out of here. I'm on my way out. Where's the outro? Where is it? Do your squats. We didn't have time to do that today, but I was at the gym this morning, so I don't have to do them because I already did all my working out today. But if you haven't done yours, get to it. And make sure you visit me on meganfox.locals.com because that is where we have the most fun. We have all the memes and all the things happening over there. All right, guys, take care. I will see you again. meganfox.locals.com. And I'm out of here. Have a great day, everybody. Well, I was going to be out of here.
I was lost, my world is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. Oh, and my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. goodbye. No, I don't wanna stay. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. This time I know my road is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. In my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye.